If you watched the All Blacks in 2025 and came away feeling a bit confused, unsatisfied, you're definitely not alone. On paper, it doesn't look like a disaster. We won 10 out of the 13 games we played. That's a 77% record, which actually equals the average win record for the All Blacks over our entire 120-year history. In 2025, there were some big scorelines, some breakout stars, and a few nights where the attack looked absolutely electric. But when you zoom in on the games that defined the 2025 season, South Africa, England, Ireland, and even Argentina, and compare that to how we played in 2023 before Razor took office, something just feels off. So in this episode, I want to cut the noise. I want to talk straight with you, one-on-one, just two rugby nerds sitting on the stands, trying to make sense of it all. And look, full disclaimer, before we start, Armchair Critics Unite. It is infinitely easier for me to sit here safe and warm looking at stats than it is to be out there with a 140 kilogram South African prop crouching to scrum me. So I have massive respect for the players and the coaches putting their bodies and reputations on the line. But as fans, we care. And because we care, we have to be honest about what we are seeing. We're going to look at why 2025 feels meh, the tactical shifts under Razor Ball, why I'm comparing this team to the S&P 500, and what needs to happen in 2026. Let's start with the verdict. For me, 2025 is an unsatisfactory year. Now, there are caveats. We had a genuine injury crisis. No Tupovai, no Patrick Tuipolotu for stretches, Jordie Barrett missing key chunks, no Tyrell Lomax, Ofa Tuangafasi or Asafo Aumua. Caleb Clark missed key games early on. We didn't have Noah Hotham or Imoni Narawa, and we weren't able to properly introduce to the world Timothy Tawatawanawai. That's a lot of stock unavailable for most of the year. And we blooded some serious talent. Fabian Holland, World Breakthrough Player of the Year 2025. What a shift for a rookie lock. Veteran journalist Tony Johnson shared an incredible stat recently. In 2025, Fabian Holland secured 80 line-out takes on our own throw and made 5 steals. That's 85 total line-out wins, the highest for any lock in international rugby this year. That is incredible. And honestly, while guys like Henry Pollock are out there scoring tries and looking for the camera to look sick on social media, we have a genuine hard grinder right here, a workhorse. We're looking at a potential 100-test All Black. So massive flowers to him and his family. Very, very well deserved. And if you know his backstory, moving over from the Netherlands as a teenager to chase this dream, it just makes it even more remarkable. Then you have Wallace Satiti looking good on the Northern Tour, Caleb Clark having a great finish to the year, and Josh Lord impressing in Scott Barrett's absence. But then, you look at the benchmark games. We get hammered by the Boks in Wellington, 43-10. The Boks entered our 22 12 times and came away with points almost every time. We go to Twickenham, and England put 33 points on us, dominating the last 20 minutes and monstering our scrum. And Argentina, they beat us in a game where they carried the ball twice as much as we did and just outmuscled us. So yeah, unsatisfactory is fair. Not because we're terrible, but because against the two real benchmark teams of 2025, South Africa and England, we came out second best. Now, we have to talk about the July series against France. We all know it was a development squad that France sent over to New Zealand, so let's not pat ourselves on the back for the wins. The worrying part isn't who they sent, it's how we played against them. The first and third tests were way too tight, but the real frustration for me was that second test. Do you remember the first 40 minutes of that second test? It was beautiful, dominant rugby. It was the best we played all year, fluid, ruthless, razor ball in full flight. And then we never saw that level of fluidity again for the rest of the year. We came out in the second half and just took the foot off the throat. That lack of ruthlessness, that inability to play an 80-minute performance against a B-side, that was the warning sign for the rest of the season. This brings me to the engine room. At the start of the year, the lineout was actually a weapon. It looked sharp. Then injuries hit. Cody Taylor goes down, and suddenly, in the second half of that Wellington test against the Boks, with our third choice hooker on, the wheels come off. We are losing key throws, getting shoved off our own ball. And the scrum? This is where I get worried. In the World Cup final in 2023, under immense pressure, we had a 100% scrum success rate. We didn't concede a single penalty against the Springboks. Let me repeat. In the World Cup finals against Oxenshire and Co., the All Blacks did not concede a single penalty against the Springboks. The pack held. Fast forward to Twickenham in 2025. England is at 100%. We're at 86%. And we're physically going backwards at key moments. It feels like we're trying to play this high-tempo, high-skill, Crusaders-style rugby, but we're neglecting the absolute non-negotiable of Test rugby. You have to win the collision, and you have to win the set piece. If you don't, playing fast just means you lose faster. I'm going to call a quick timeout here. I'm looking at the stats, classic nerd behavior, and I see that 95% of you watching right now aren't actually subscribed. We're growing this community of armchair critics really fast, and I want to hit 10,000 subscribers so we can do even more with this channel. If you're enjoying this deep dive, do me a massive favor. Hit that like button, hit subscribe. It helps more than you know. Right, game on. Back to the analysis. Here is the structural problem I think we're facing. Super Rugby is fast, it's loose, it's a fan spectacle. We don't really emphasize the scrum or set piece. The Blues and Crusaders are the only two teams that really put an emphasis on it. Even the Chiefs struggled against the physicality of those two during the playoffs. I'm a Chiefs fan, and I admit that was a major reason we lost the championship this year. Test rugby against the Springboks and England is a street fight in a phone booth. We're trying to outpace teams that are built to bludgeon us. We're playing high tempo, trying to run them off the park. But the Springboks and England, they don't care about tempo. They care about power. And here's the kicker. They have a 6-2 bench split. We run ourselves into the ground for 60 minutes, and then they bring on an entire new forward pack, the Bomb Squad or the Pom Squad. By the 70th minute at Twickenham, our boys looked gassed. England's reserves were fresh. Trying to play fast against fresh, powerful athletes doesn't work. We need to preserve our energy and double down on the physicality. We have the athletes to be physical. We just need the game plan to match. Holly Davidson unintentionally summed up the New Zealand 2025 season in that game against Wales when she said, "No advantage, New Zealand, you're going nowhere." And this is where I think we need to be careful about trashing the past. I know Ian Foster had his critics, but look at what he, or really what Joe Schmidt and Jason Ryan, built by the end of 2023. A rock-solid set piece, a defense that strangled Ireland, a disciplined record that kept us in the fight. We can't throw that baby out with the bathwater. We need to lay a Razor's attacking game plan on top of that gritty test match foundation. Right now, it feels like we've swapped the grit for tempo, and good teams are punishing us for it. Shout out to rugby podcaster Huw Griffin, who unearthed an interesting stat. He found that when the All Blacks beat the Springboks, we actually carried and passed less than the Boks or the opposition. In the games that we lost, it was the other way around. So I put that data to the test with this year's data. Against the Springboks and England, it did stand true. So it can be argued that he's onto something. More carries and more passes means more rucks that need clearing. That's unnecessary additional work for the tight five and the back row that the opposition forwards aren't exerting. Hence, you didn't see Adi shining as much this year. In the stats, Adi, Lakai and Satiti were wonderful, but these guys are X-factor power players. Getting them running around trying to match the tempo we're trying to play is taxing over 80 minutes. So let's get back to making the set piece, the breakdown, and the defense great again. And speaking of defense, we need to fix it. Leaking 30-plus points is a crisis. We even let Wales score 4 tries against us. That's simply unacceptable. We also need to fix the kicking game, so we aren't playing roulette in our own half. Back in 2023, in the quarterfinals, we kicked once every 4 passes. The Irish kicked once every 16 passes. We actually played less rugby than the Irish, and we won. We didn't knock the ball on even once in that game. They had 0 scrums where they had the put in. It was the best rugby we had played in 8 or 9 years. We need to get back to that. Some may find that rugby boring, but that's where the rules of the game and world rugby have gone. We have 8 subs and no escorts on high balls. The All Blacks need to adapt. Now, I want to zoom out for a second. Let's talk big picture. Think of the All Blacks like the stock market, specifically the S&P 500. If you look at the S&P 500 over a week or a month or a few years, maybe a 4-year cycle, it does look volatile. There are dips, there are crashes, there are recessions. But if you zoom out to a 50-year chart, a 70-year chart, a 100-year chart, it always reverts to the mean. And that mean is upward growth. It outperforms everything else. The All Blacks are the S&P 500 of rugby. Right now, the Springboks are the benchmark. Let's give them their flowers. Rassie has built a dynasty, and they look incredible. But over 120 years, there's no one else. People are quick to say the aura is gone. The All Blacks are done. Really? I was only 1 year old when we won the first World Cup. I had to wait 24 years to see us win it again. In that time, we lost quarterfinals, we lost semis, we lost finals. Remember 2007? Remember what Graham Henry and Richie McCaw went through? The country wanted them gone. They stayed, they learned, and they built a legacy. Why are we acting like this is our first lull? Here's a reality check. A 77% win rate, which Razor has sitting around right now, would be a golden era for other teams. For us, it's a failure. And that is why I love this team, because our standard is perfection. The mana of that jersey doesn't disappear because of a bad season or a bad cycle. It's built on sweat and failure and bouncing back. So, is the aura gone? Hell no. This isn't TikTok aura farming. This is a legacy that can't be wiped out by the English media. To me, we're just going through a market correction. Attractive short-term opportunities to bet against us? Sure. But over the long term, I'm not selling my All Black stock, and neither should you. We need to get our strategy right for 2026. Keep the attack, but bring back the brutality. Respect the set piece. If we do that, this unsatisfactory year just becomes the messy middle of a great story. If you stuck with me this long, you're a legend. Let me know in the comments. Do you think we're in a permanent decline? Or is this just a dip in the market? Please do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, so we can keep these chats going, and share this with another rugby tragic. Catch you in the next one.